Okay, the first example, you will have this question. This is the question based on your workbook. Given the function f(x) is 1 over 3 power of negative x minus 2 plus 1. Okay, so the basic things you have to know is about transformation chapter 2. So the same thing. What happened when you have negative x? So negative here will be inside the function. So you will have reflecting about y-axis here. And then you have minus 2. Minus 2 is also inside the function. So your graph will be shifting to the right 2 units. And the plus 1 here is outside the function. Your graph will be shifting upward 1 unit. So you have 3 types of transformation here. So this is your first step. Second, reflecting or stretch, compress. So in this case, you doesn't have stretch, compress. So second step will be reflecting. And the last one will be shifting vertically, which is shifting upward 1 unit. Okay, always start with the basic graph. Okay, so the basic graph will be fx equal to 1 over 3x. So if you notice here, your base is in between of 0 until 1. So you will have decreasing graph. Okay, and then the compulsory point is 0, 1, meaning that when your x is 0, 1 over 3 power 0 is always 1. Okay, and then question asks to show at least 2 points at each graph. So choose another 1 point. Let's say this one. Your x here will be negative 1. So when your x is negative 1, your y will be, here will be 3. So the point here is negative 1, 3. So show at least 2. So you can show 2 is enough. And then you can also show more than 2 points for each graph. Okay, the second step, or the second graph, you will have the first step, which is the graph will be shift to the right 2 units. Every point here will be moving to the right 2 units. So from this point, 0, 1, if you move these points to the right 2 units, so the new point will be at 2, 1. Okay. And then this point, negative 1, 3, moving 2 units to the right. This is the new point, which is 1, 3. So just draw the graph that crossing these 2 points. So still decreasing graph. And then don't forget to write the explanation, which is shift to the right 2 units. Right? Okay, the next graph will be the next step, which is reflect y-axis. So just write the equation first. 1 over 3 power of negative x minus 2. Okay, so what happened to these 2 points when you reflect about y-axis? So they can move to the other side. So 1, 3 will be moving to negative 1, 3. Imagine that this is your mirror. Okay, 2, 1. If you reflect towards this line, the new point will be negative 2, 1. Okay, so you will have increasing graph here. And then the explanation here will be reflect about y-axis. And the last one, you will have the last step, which is shifting upward. So this is the equation, 1 over 3 power of negative x minus 2 plus 1. Okay, so if you have shifting vertically, you have to move also the asymptote line. Originally, your asymptote is here, yeah, your x-axis. And then if you're moving the asymptotes 1 unit upward, so the new asymptote will be this one, the dotted line, which is at y is equal to 1. Okay, so your graph will never cross or touch this asymptote line. So what happened to this point? Negative 2, 1. Shifting upward 1 unit. This is the new point, which is negative 2, 2. And then from negative 1, 3, moving upward 1 unit, the new point will be at negative 1, 4. So just draw one graph crossing these 2 points. So the explanation here will be shifting upward 1 unit. Okay, the question also asks you find its domain and range. So from the last graph, you have to determine the domain. Okay, so the domain will be your x values. So you have the graph along the x-axis. So your domain will be from negative infinity up until infinity. And then the range starting from 1, which is y is 1, up until infinity. So your graph here will be increasing up until infinity. So 1 until infinity. 1 is excluded because your graph will never cross or touch the asymptote line. Okay, first example settle. Okay, second example. Let's say you have the question in your workbook also. The function given is negative 3e power of x. So if you have e here, meaning that you have natural exponential function graph. Minus 2. Okay, sketch the graph using transformation techniques. Show all steps and plot at least 2 points at each graph. The same question. If you look at the question here, you have 3 types of transformation. The first one is negative outside. Just now negative attached with the x. So this one is negative outside. So your graph will be reflect x-axis. And then you have constant 3 also outside the function. Vertically stretched by 3. And then you have minus 2 outside also shifting downward 2 units. Okay. So starting with the basic graph, make sure you have the correct basic graph. Fx equal to e power of x. So e here is 2.718 something. So your a is more than 1. That's why you have the increasing graph. And then the crossing point is at 0, 1. So choose one more point. Let's say this one. When your x is 1, your y will be e. E power of 1 is e. So the point here will be 1e. So just state as e. Okay, so this is the basic graph of the natural exponential function. Okay, second graph will be your first step. So the first step here will be reflecting first because it doesn't have any horizontal shift. So first step reflect, second is vertically stretch, and the last one will be shift vertically. So let's say the second graph here, I reflect the graph about x-axis. So all the points will be reflecting towards this line. Okay, so from 0, 1, the new point will be 0, negative 1. From 1e, the new point will be 1, negative e. So just draw one graph crossing these 2 points. So you will have the decreasing graph. Okay, and then the third graph, you will have negative 3 e power of x. Okay, so you are involving the vertical stretch here. So what happened when you have vertical stretch? So imagine that you stretch your y-axis. Okay, you stretch your y-axis. How stretched they are? By multiplying the y coordinate with the constant c. So the constant c here is 3 because you have constant 3 times the function. So vertically stretched by a factor of 3. So every y coordinate, you have to multiply by 3. Negative 1 times 3 is negative 3. So the new point is at 0, negative 3. Negative e times 3 is negative 3e. So just write as negative 3e. X coordinate remain the same. Okay, so you have these 2 points and then just draw the graph crossing these 2 points. And then the last one will be negative 3 e power negative x minus 2. So if you have minus 2 here, meaning that your graph will be moving downward 2 units. So if your graph moving vertically, so you have to move also the asymptote line. Originally at your x-axis, if you're moving downward 2 units, so the new asymptote will be at y equal to negative 2. Okay, so this is your new asymptote line. So from the point 0, negative 3, moving downward 2 units, the new point will be at 0, negative 5. This one, 1, negative 3e, moving downward 2 units, so the new point will be 1, negative 3e minus 2. So just write as minus 2 because you are moving the graph downward 2 units. Okay, so the explanation here is shift downward 2 units. So what happened to the domain and range? Domain is the all x values. So all x values, you have the graph here. So domain will be all the numbers or negative infinity until infinity. And then the range, you have the negative side of y starting from negative infinity up until here, which is negative 2. So negative infinity up until negative 2, this is excluded because this is asymptote. Your graph never cross or touch this asymptote line. Okay, so make sure you check your last graph. How to check? Just substitute the points. Let's say you choose this point, substitute into the question. Let's say this one, your x is 0. E power 0 is 1. 1 times negative 3 is negative 3. Negative 3 minus 2 is negative 5. So you have the correct points here. Okay, so make sure you check your last graph. Okay, that's all for this subtopic. Thank you.